up, hogs? Let's buzz some feeds and bait some clicks. You guys are listening to Super Despair World, the only podcast that has TV broadcasting rights in both Mexico and Japan, which is going to create a generation of really weird kids in about, 15 years from now. Folks, and I mean folks with an X, we are reaching way back into the back of the fridge today to stick our fingers deep into some stanky fucking discourse from like a decade ago. So if you want to play it safe and keep your hands clean before we head on this little journey, there's an easy way you guys can do that.
Yeah, so we have a Patreon. Really cool Patreon. You can join it for free. You can also donate a sinister $6 to listen to the bonus episodes that we record. And we just recorded a bono, which is about to release tomorrow as of this recording. So it'll probably come out before this particular episode is released. And that's a real banger. And we've also just dropped a Project $20 tier where you get none other than 2 incredibly awesome stickers made by our dear sweet Briar, with the awesome art that goes with every episode, every unique piece of art on every episode, and you could be a part of this. And with both of those things, you're supporting the show. And to everybody who signed up already, which we're gonna shout you out later, we appreciate the fuck out of you. Now, if you are too destitute to donate to the Patreon, that's all right. We understand. Times are hard these days, and but if you want to be a part of this show's great community, you can join our Discord. And joining the Discord at this point, at least, is free. And you can come hang out with us, have a little chat ski, talk about some shit, talk about the episodes, talk about whatever. And you can also hop in our Discord Q&A and ask us some questions, which we answer on episodes like our last one before this, where which was a real knee slapper. So get in there, do all that, and to everybody who has done that already, we appreciate you, and to everybody who hasn't, get your shit together.
Hell yeah. I'm looking back over the intro that I wrote for this episode just now, and the analogy I made about reaching into the back of the fridge, and I feel like when I wrote that, my mind was in so at the start of today, around 10 in the morning, I decided to just make a whole bowl of pasta for breakfast, and I feel like I've been regretting that decision in the hours since then. I've just been feeling like shit today, dog.
Yeah, I mean that's a move. That's a move. A bowl of pasta for breakfast. I'm not gonna say I've never done it before, but
I don't know what came over me. Just, I don't know, maybe something dark, maybe an impulse to do something I regret. Either way, let's start off today's episode on a bit of a lighter note. I wanted to share what I think is a very funny little, not quite a green text from 4chan, but it is a bit of a parody of one of those. Dave, have you ever heard of a little character called Rawhide Kobayashi?
No. Go on.
Okay, so this is a little parody of a 4chan green text, which was known as Ken-sama, and it was this pudgy white guy in a kimono talking about how he's very big into Japanese culture. We did a whole episode about weebs. It's very funny, and the original concept for today was is there a reverse weeb culture over in Japan? And I think this is just a very amusing note to start off on. So, introducing ourselves to this little character, this message, it goes, "Howdy, my name is Rawhide Kobayashi. I'm a 27-year-old Japanese, Jap-American, Western culture fan for you foreigners. I brand and wrangle cattle on my ranch and spend my days perfecting my craft and enjoying superior American pastimes, such as barbecue, rodeo, and fireworks. I train with my branding iron every day. This superior weapon can permanently leave my ranch emblem on a cattle's hide because it is white hot and is vastly superior to any other method of livestock marking.
True.
I earned my branding license 2 years ago. I've been getting better with it every day. I speak English fluently, both Texas and the Oklahoma accent, and I write I write fluently as well. I know everything about American history and their cowboy code, which I follow 100%. When I get my American visa, I am moving to Dallas to work in an oil field to learn more about their magnificent culture. I hope I can become a cattle wrangler for the Double Cross Station or an oil rig operator for ExxonMobil. I own several cowboy hats, which I wear around town. I want to get used to wearing them before I move to America so I can fit in easier. I rebel against my elders and seniors and speak English as often as I can, but rarely does anyone manage to respond. Wish me luck in America.
Well, this is a clear parody, and it is very good. The difference is there are actually Americans who think this way, whereas the weebs that they're lampooning there, I don't think there are Japanese people. I mean, aside from a very, very small few who are like, you know, like studying the blade and like calligraphy and just like being obsessed with like traditional ancient Japanese culture like that.
From what I know, a lot of those things like calligraphy or like sword-based martial arts, they're just like after school clubs for like high school kids for the most part.
Yeah,
not many people really stick with it. It's
probably like Civil War reenactors and shit like that. It's like a very narrow subset of Japanese people are like really into that shit. Most of them are just fucking salarymen.
I don't know. I think being a Civil War reenactor kind of maybe says a little bit more about your politics. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there was a YouTube video I saw once where there were these like two black guys who decided to like crash a Civil War reenactment, and they decided to show up to the event dressed as slaves, and they made the white people there very uncomfortable.
That is fucking amazing. That is brilliant.
I think they got like escorted away by police, and they were saying like, "Oh, I'm sorry, master," and everything like that. And it was just
oh wow, wow.
I don't know.
No, that's brilliant.
Yeah, they've got them dead to rights there.
For sure.
You can't see this image, but I'm gonna link it to you on Discord real quick, just so you can appreciate this little bit at the top. I think this is like a dating profile or something. It says, name Rawhide Kobayashi, age 27, country Japan, hobby barbecue sauce, cowboy hats, and being rawhide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, posted September 24th, 2011. That's a good year for shit posting and really seminal meme shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is, like I said, we're going way back today, but I wanted to start off with this because we're starting it off on a light note, because I had to do some research for this episode. And originally the concept was like, okay, let's look at all these like little subcultures in Japan where they like take some facet of like American culture and kind of make it their own. And I did find a few of those, but I'm not really good at research, so maybe we'll save that proper for another episode. What I wanted to talk about instead was a whole slew of very interesting videos that I found about cultural appropriation on the internet. And I thought about like, what the fuck does that term mean there? So I don't know, Dave, when you hear cultural appropriation, like what comes to mind?
All right, well, I don't want to get too deep into this because we're probably going to suss it out in a bit. But like,
if you think I have an answer, you're wrong. We're raw dogging this.
So there's a bastardized version of cultural appropriation where it's just like stay in your lane, and if you weren't born into this, you're not allowed to like participate and be a part of this culture. Like you're not allowed in. There's a gatekeeping aspect of this. How I think of cultural appropriation is like people who have an interest in the aesthetic of something, whether it be like in relation to like a cultural artifact or something, whether it's like, you know, wearing a certain type of clothes, doing a certain type of music, having a certain hairstyle, like the way you talk or something like that. But like just cribbing the aesthetic of it only without really like being a part of that culture, like taking the time to really like appreciate and understand the cultural underpinnings of that. So I think that's like the real definition of cultural appropriation, but I know some people that they use it a bit incorrectly.
Yeah, no, there's definitely some people, and I don't want to say like this is a lot of people or like this is necessarily like a big thing that society is largely wrong about, because like we live on the internet nowadays, and like for better or worse, if you are online, you can find anybody shouting like any stupid fucking opinion. So like it doesn't really matter. You can't really come up with like a ridiculous straw man anymore, because you are going to find out of 8 billion people on Earth, at least 2 or 3 people who do actually think that way. But
right.
So like over the course of this, I watched a bunch of videos, and a lot of them are very dated. I feel like, I don't know, I think the internet has largely lost its taste for like mass-produced, cheap, ineffectatious, like social justice-y sort of hashtag content online. But I watched a few videos from this channel that I did not know existed. It's called so it used to be called MTV Decoded. Now the YouTube channel is MTV Impact. They did a lot of like social justice videos like 8 years ago, which are just like these like pithy little like 5 to 10 minute like surface level explainers of like sociology 101 things, but it's like sassy and hip and has like pop punk like graphic design popping up on the video to explain these little things. I'm like, man, I know this was like a whole era of the internet, but I'm like watching this stuff like back now, and I feel like I don't know who this is for. I don't know who this sort of thing like really resonates with anymore, because I feel like people either just like know this stuff nowadays, or like if they don't already know it, like I just feel like this sort of like presentation just does not like stick with anybody, right?
Yeah, I mean, it gives me like Jubilee or like to a lesser extent Vox vibes.
Yeah, I guess that's like the current version of it. This is like the predecessor, but I mean it still exists. I just feel like, I don't know, it feels very, I don't know real people who watch this stuff anymore.
I don't either, but at the same time it's like I don't know everybody in the world. I mean, I think there is like a pretty significant swath of people that still are, I don't know, like this is like feel good content to them. Is like, oh, I'm anti-racist now because I watched this like 6-minute video from MTV. What's it called now? Like it's, Impact? Well, MTV
Impact, yeah.
Yeah.
They have 141,000 subs on YouTube, so like I guess somebody's still watching. They are still uploading, but I don't know.
I mean, that's not really that much for like a network produced YouTube channel, though. I feel
I don't know. Is MTV still cool with the kids? I feel like it's kind of dated now. I don't know. It feels a very
fuck no.
No.
Fuck no.
Yeah.
MTV fucking sucks now. Like it. I'm gonna be real. Like when I was a kid, it was cool because they played music, and then like occasionally they would play like weird or interesting shows. Now it's fucking slop. It's like complete slop.
I mean, it was definitely cool at some point in time, but when I say like MTV isn't cool now, I'm pretty sure it also wasn't cool like 10 years ago. I think you have to go back a little.
Oh yeah,
further.
No, you'd probably have to go back like 20. 20 is probably when they really, because I remember like as a kid, I would watch MTV all the time because they would just play music videos like all day. That's all they did, was just play music videos. And then they had some shows where like they would play music videos but with a host, and then they would have some other shit, and then occasionally and then they would have some like reality shows and shit like that. And then that started to like take over the channel. So they made MTV2, which was supposed to be all music videos, and MTV1 was like a mix of both. And then eventually, I'm sure you can all see where this is going, MTV1, the original MTV, turned into just like reality TV fucking slop content. And then MTV2, they just put like half slop and occasionally videos, and then they made MTV3 so they could have 3 networks where they were just putting so it was just like the slop crept in.
It's very funny because you see the same trend with like the very big like 10 million plus sub like YouTube channels as well. They have a whole bunch of like backup channels of just other either way. I forget, was it MTV or was it Cartoon Network that had those early like Gorillaz animations? Because those were very cool. I remember those when I was a kid.
That could be MTV. I think that was like the Gorillaz. The Gorillaz come up was definitely towards the end of the MTV golden era. I mean,
so I remember being in like middle school back when like everybody had like fucking Feel Good Inc. quotes in their MSN online handle or whatever. But
yeah, I think MTV was still doing like tangentially music stuff at that point at least. But Cartoon Network was a bit ahead of its time with that kind of stuff too, so that's also possible.
Yeah, regardless, I wanted to get into this. We got a bit off track. I watched a bunch of videos from MTV Impact, although I guess it was it says decoded in the episode title, but the channel's Impact now, whatever. I watched a bunch of these like pithy little explainer videos just to do some like little research for the show, see what people are talking about on the internet about this whole thing. And it seems like everywhere I go, when I see people talking about cultural appropriation, they try to like draw it down the line of this like there's cultural appreciation versus appropriation, and I feel like the line is like not always super clear. And I feel like, I don't know, the way the conversations and rhetoric about this has gone on over the years has been like very unsatisfying. I don't know. I think there's a whole mess of I don't know, people on both sides just do not talk about this very cleanly. So I wanted to dig a little deeper, and I found an interesting news article from BuzzFeed News, and like we hate BuzzFeed over here too. We're gonna do a whole episode on how BuzzFeed is not good, but Dave, I'm gonna tell you a little about this story. I don't know if you've heard about this a couple of years ago, but let me know if you have. Do you remember the incident? This was apparently in 2018, where there was this like high school girl, and she wore a like traditional Chinese dress to her prom, and it was like a whole internet like shit show for a little bit. Do you remember that?
This sounds vaguely familiar, but go on.
Well, I'm going to link you to the article, and like I guess we can go over it. I don't know if we'll do like a full proper like read through, probably not. But this was it says here, a teen from Utah caused a controversy online after posting photos of her wearing a traditional Chinese dress known as a qipao or cheongsam in Cantonese to prom. Sorry, by the way, if I mispronounce any of these words. But you got some photos here. Maybe we'll put them up. I don't know. It's just a very like normal looking white girl with her like boyfriend, I assume, and he's wearing like a suit, and she's wearing this like, you've probably seen this dress before. It's like a traditional like long Chinese dress with like the little gold embroidery and like the little like leg slit down the side. I'm sure everybody's seen it before. And apparently like there was somebody who saw her post these pictures on the internet, and he like quote tweeted this. It was and he wrote, "My culture is not your goddamn prom dress," and this like blew up like on Twitter, and I guess it sent a lot of harassment this girl's way. So I just wanted to maybe start off here as like looking at this as like a case file, like a little example. Like how do we feel about this? Because like personally, I don't know. I read through it, and I don't feel like the girl really did anything wrong here. I think she's just wearing a dress.
First and foremost, this person is at their high school prom, so they're probably 17 years old.
Right.
Like,
it's almost certainly a minor.
Calm down. Also, Jeremy Lamb, please tell me more about like traditional Cantonese culture. I'd really love to know like how deeply you revere the traditions of the culture that you're born into. Please tell me more. Yeah.
I will say this. I don't know if it changes our perception of these things, but I read on in the story, and some of these tweets have been deleted back since then, because this is one of those like shit ass BuzzFeed articles where like instead of just like taking a screenshot, they just link to the and embed the tweets directly. So it's like, over time this gets harder to read. But apparently, so the quote tweet was from this guy, Jeremy Lamb, and some people dug into his old tweets, and it turned out he was like a closet racist, and he was like out here posting like the N-word and other shit like that. And now he's like out here calling other people out on this cultural appropriation thing, which I think is very funny to me. I've definitely seen in other instances, things where like some of the most outspoken people about doing this whole like call out culture thing on the internet are like kind of covering for their own like past that they might be guilty over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's a lot of like just generally reactionary takes on stuff. Is a lot of it is generally projection from people. So I've scrolled down a bit. And they are doing like a pose where they're doing like the hands together thing, which like, I mean, that could be like I'm Chinese type of thing. I mean, the guys in the background are also throwing up gang signs, so like
it's important.
I mean, not great.
It's important to remember that this is apparently a high school in Utah, which is like the whitest of white people in like the U.S. So like I'm not gonna say I'm gonna forgive them for being a little ignorant, but I do think it's kind of expected that they're gonna be kind of sheltered and like ignorant. I don't know. I will say like I look at the little like hands together like fake stylized like bow thing, and I think that's a little bit sketchy, but I think like I don't know, that's totally removed from the dress. I feel like
yeah.
That's just a teenager being a little bit dumb for like 2 seconds, you know.
Yeah, and I want to go on record saying that dress looks fucking dope. I think she rocked the fuck out of that. But I mean, I guess that's kind of besides the point. But I also see that that oh wow, we got two fucking fellas, two famous fellas right here lined up. So Ethan Klein, the famous YouTube guy, his response was, so this dude found a random girl online and convinced 100K plus people to bully her over a prom dress. Bro, if your idea of your culture is so shallow that it could be boiled down to a dress, then if anyone is insulting it's you.
I don't know. I feel like, so my opinion, like I wasn't gonna get into this, but I think Ethan Klein is largely one of those guys who like got big on the internet for being like vaguely funny, and now like weighs in on like real issues as if his like opinion matters, but like it really doesn't. So
yeah, I mean that's just like kind of a beside the point take. I don't really have too much to say about that. I don't think that's like the guy bullying this girl, like it's kind of cringe. If it boiled down to a dress, like that's a bit reductive. I don't know about all that. I'm just gonna pass on that one. I don't really want to opine on fucking Ethan Klein. Like fucking let's leave people who were famous in 2011 just to silently disappear into the night. But then we have Ian Miles Chong, which I'll definitely opine on.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah, let's go.
So he says, good job at Twitter Moments for signal boosting bullies to harass this young woman over her prom dress. And now we know that Ian Miles Chong is an unproud Asian. This guy really wishes he was like an obese white man in like Arkansas whose name was like Chet Smith.
Yeah, we if we're ever talking about Ian Miles Chong, we gotta remember this guy like constantly talks about America as if he like lives there or has ever been there, but he hasn't, which makes it weird.
No, that's a fucking Ameriboo right there.
Well, I guess, yeah. I was hoping for a more positive episode, but I guess that is a valid example.
Well, okay, all right. This is one like manifestation of the Ameriboo is like the guy who wants to be American just so he could be like a racist, crusty old white man, which is like spiritually that is what Ian Miles Chong is. I don't think that's cultural appropriation. I think he's steeped himself in that culture so much that I think he belongs there despite being born in where's he from? Malaysia?
I think it's either Malaysia
Indonesia?
or the Philippines, somewhere around Southeast Asia. I don't really remember because I don't think he matters. But
no, he's a true lol cow.
pretty sure it's Malaysia though, right? I think so.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't want to be on the same side as him, but I do think like. I don't know. Obviously, he's just doing this for like clickbait or whatever, something like about 6 years ago now. But I do think, I don't know. I look at the responses going on in this whole thing, and you see some tweets from the girl herself, and she's like, I didn't want to like do anything offensive. I just think it's a pretty dress, and I wanted to wear it. I think she found it at like a vintage store or whatever. So like, good on you for like saving money as well. The whole thing just makes me think like from what I've read, people are saying that like the dress is like traditional, but like when people say traditional, they mean like, you know, like in a lot of European countries, it's traditional to wear like a suit and tie to like formal events or something. It's just like simple formal attire, and like, you know, as silly as high school can be, prom is like a formal event. So I think it's like totally valid to wear it. I think it's like different than something like, say, you know, like a Native American like feather headdress, which is like that has like that has very specific rituals and shit, right? So
Right, exactly. And that's a thing too, is like there has been I'm not saying there hasn't been like a culture of racism towards like Chinese Americans here, like not at all. It hasn't been expressed in that way though. I mean, if she was wearing a rice hat and like had like fake buck teeth and like taped her eyes back, as gross as that is, like that's clearly like fuck you. But like in like racist depictions of like Chinese people, that's not what you see there. Whereas with like Native Americans, they're always wearing a headdress and they have no shirt on and they have like a tomahawk and they're running around hooting and shit like that. Where like so that's a little bit different.
There's a noticeable difference between this, which is like her wearing like an actual Chinese dress that she got at like a real store, versus like, you know, finding one of those like Native American chief or like Japanese geisha costumes at Value Village for Halloween.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
That's a very different thing. I also feel like, I don't know, like I don't want to imply that we can't be, you know, we can't pay attention to issues of different degrees, but I also feel like it's weird to me that some people will get so worked up about something like one teenage white girl in Utah wore this dress and now we have to freak out about it. Meanwhile, somebody like fucking like Steven Crowder has like millions of subscribers on the front page of YouTube, and he does just wear the actual like 1950s comical Chinese like caricature costume in his like regular content, and like people aren't more upset about that. I don't know,
and he
that's
does
a weird
this.
thing.
Yeah, and he also does this like over the top like fucking like black voice, which is so fucking corny as well.
It's not
clearly
good.
Never seen a black person outside of like a fucking blaxploitation film or some shit like that. But yeah, for sure. And I will add to that, just from personal experience of like living in Korea. They have a similar traditional dress called hanbok, which also looks incredibly
They're
dope.
very
Like,
cute. I think they're gorgeous.
Oh, they're super cool. And like Korean people like don't they think it's cool when like foreign people come and they like try on some hanbok, or they wear them to like to some like a Korean wedding or something like that. They're like, oh, that's fucking cute. Like,
I've
whatever,
heard similar
but, yeah.
things about like Indian weddings, right? Like if like a white person and an Indian person want to have like a traditional like Hindi style wedding or whatever, people are all big on their traditional outfits.
So my younger cousin is getting married to a Pakistani woman, and they just had the not too long ago the like 100-day ceremony for their son.
Hell yeah.
And he was rocking the I don't know if it's called sari in
I'm pretty sure it's called sari.
Yeah.
In Pakistan,
in
right.
India, but Pakistan I'm not really sure if it's called something different. But like I'm apparently gonna be in his wedding party. I was like, dude, like let me know when I get fitted for. He was like, I got you, man. I got you. Like
I don't know the name of the formal like Indian like groom outfit, but I do think those look very fire as well.
Oh man, he looks so cool. I'm so hyped to have one. Like I'm so hyped for a reason to have one. It's gonna be great. Because they look incredibly dope.
You gotta take some pics once
for sure,
that happens.
for sure, without question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like to tie things back, like I look at this and I think this is a clear case that this girl does just like genuinely like this culture, and I think there's nothing wrong with her wearing the dress. And I'm glad that you brought up the whole thing about people abroad and how they feel about this, because this is another thing that I saw come up in some of the videos that I watched, where there's a noticeably different attitude among minorities if they've been like, let's say, natively in the US for like their whole life versus like if they're like an immigrant or part of like a diaspora community, right? So like I've heard like a common experience among some immigrants where it'll be like, let's say you're like a Chinese immigrant to like an American city or something. In a lot of ways, like you're in this new culture, you're in this new part of the world. A lot of things are like very different, and you have this whole like culture shock moment. In a lot of ways, it can be very comforting to see something like familiar from back home being like enjoyed over here in this other culture. So like I think that's a legitimate like form of exchange and appreciation. I can't really talk today. And I think it's like, I don't know, I think there's something telling about it when you see like a lot of the biggest and most vocal outrage about this comes from like, let's be clear here, like relatively privileged like middle class like kids of like, I don't know, minority parents who just, I don't know, get these like college educations, and now they feel compelled to like call out every little problematic cultural slight in the world, which some of them are valid, but I feel like, I don't know, it seems like a lot of like misdirected anger to me.
Yeah, I mean, you see a certain subsect of these people, like the people who just like spend way too much fucking time online, and they get way too pressed about like really minor shit, and it's just like, bro, like nobody's discounting that there's like systemic racism and a lot of like cultural problems in the West and stuff like that. Like for sure. I mean, some people are, but fuck them. But I'm talking about normal people. But it's also like, man, like when you really have nothing going on in your life, when you really have no like actual shit to worry about, then you're really just spending all your time just it's kind of the thing like when all you have is a hammer, everything you see is a nail. It's kind of like that. It's just like I really do think there are some people that just spend all their time looking at like just reading about and looking at like media about like oppression and whatever, and then just like everything they see around them is just this like knee-jerk reaction to just like get pissed and to just like really lash out at some people who like, and I'm not saying some people don't deserve this. It's just like you said, it's like, man, direct your hostility toward fucking towards Steven Crowder and people like that, but then they're gonna just like spend all this time getting pissed at some fucking 17-year-old who wore like a piece of clothing that's That's like whatever. I don't know, man.
Let's be clear here. There's no amount of like MTV decoded impact videos you could make Steven Crowder watch in the fucking Clockwork Orange like eye viewing machine that'll make him like less of a closeted like racist or whatever. You know what I mean?
People like that are I think fundamentally like they're done. They're done. And we the only thing we can do is just try to give them as little of a voice as possible and galvanize impressionable people to not be susceptible to their bullshit. That's really what it all comes down to. Because like I really do like the term grifter gets thrown around a lot, and I do think like dudes like that are a grifter to a certain extent, but I think like fundamentally too, like they are just like kind of racist, shitty, like lame fucking douchebag people. And I don't. You're not gonna fix him. You're not going to fix him.
Well,
but,
I think in the case of someone like Crowder, I would say the word grifter is applicable because like the dude is a millionaire. He's like a multi-millionaire doing this stuff. He is too financially incentivized to ever not be this, you know? So like, what are you going to do about him?
Well, sure. But it's like at the same time, these issues that he rallies about, and this is the same as all these like really like popular, famous lefty figures, which I'm not gonna name names. Let's not even get into that fucking bullshit. But you know, these people with like who make a shit ton of money on Twitch or fucking Patreon or YouTube or whatever. And it's like it's. I mean, at this point, it's just kind of like, hey, say the word, and we give you our subscription money and my mom's allowance that she gives to me. Yay! Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's
cool.
The thing that really got me when I was watching those like little MTV like explainer videos. It's like within like 30 seconds of the video, you're already hearing like sociology 101 jargon, and I'm like, okay, either people watching this already know what those words mean, or like if they don't, I feel like the video doesn't really have any like actual like persuasive thing to reach them, you know. I feel like a lot of this is just like meaningless like academic like slop for I don't know, for the average person.
Yeah, for sure. It's probably an intellectual jerk off exercise for the people who make it, and then also just like just one of those things where a lot of this like crank shit it's made for the people who already agree with everything that they're saying. They're just like, yeah, true, updo. Yes,
Yeah.
This is a very productive discourse that I'm doing. Is like you just said things that I agree with without any like like just nothing's different. I just feel good because I'm like, yeah, fuck. Racism is bad.
Racism is bad, guys. I don't know if you know this. Like, some of these videos are literally like in the old like BuzzFeed listicle format. It's like 6 things you didn't know about how racism is bad. And I'm like, wow, really? Okay, cool. Time to learn 6 little factoids, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's what everything has come down to now. Is like just listicles about, you know, broad topics about, you know, society and shit.
Number 15.
Number 15. Imagine being racist is really bad, but what if somebody is racist at your school? This person had somebody
as it turns out that might be what you get. So this is something I wrote down in my notes because this is like a big point that I want to not get to the end of the episode without making, which when we riff on this stuff, I think there might be a little potential for some people in the audience to think like, wow, Briar and Dave sure sound like maybe a little bit reactionary on this issue. And I think I want to get across this point that when we talk about things like privilege and like I can't speak today. Marginalization, people who are marginalized, it's like, okay, These things are absolutely 100% real. Don't walk away from this video thinking that I disagree with any of that. But I think that the way that people talk about these things, and the way that we've like made this like academic language like enter the mainstream like rather carelessly, I think the way that we talk about these issues is often like kind of reductive, and kind of leads to this sort of like black and white sort of thinking, where it's like, okay, I don't think like white people are actually like meaningfully like harassed or like terrorized or something for like not minding their words carefully enough or something. But I have noticed, like, in a lot of the like more progressive leaning creative spaces I'm in, you'll see something where like, okay, somebody's like, well, I'm a white person, so I guess that means I can't really like understand this culture, or like I just shouldn't touch this thing at all, or like I have to be like extra careful or whatever. And I think, I don't know, I just think people need to be really, really wary about both boiling down complex societal issues to like the individual level, where like you personally feel like guilty for like not being like completely perfect on like every understanding of every issue, or like, you know, getting really mad at some like random white girl in Utah for wearing a dress to prom like for one day or something. So I would say it's important to avoid this like individualistic thinking, and also to avoid getting too like black and white with it. Like, yes, marginalization and oppression and privilege, all that stuff does exist, but it's not enough to just view the world, I think, through the lens of like oppressor and oppressed. I think often things are a lot more complicated, and I think we do everybody a bit of a disservice when like we boil down things like entire cultures down to like, well, was this appropriative or was this appreciative? And I don't know, it's often more complicated than that.
Yeah, I think that brings up an interesting point where I know this term has been just completely just that it has no meaning anymore, but identity politics. It kind of goes along with like what this should mean is, I mean, we should be critiquing and talking about systems, not individual people, like because the systems are really the things that are problematic. And I'm not saying, like, I'm guilty of this shit too, where like, you know, you want to look for a boogeyman that represents like the things that are the ills of society. Like, you know, you talk about like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg, to just talk about how like capitalism in the tech industry is like just fucking disgusting. And it's like, yeah, like clearly those people are pieces of shit, just like, as we said before, like Steven Crowder is a piece of shit.
But similarly, I'll say, like, let's say hypothetically in the next 24 hours, like Elon Musk has a stroke and dies. I think nothing about society would really change that much immediately.
It's gonna disrupt a certain arm, a certain head of the Hydra for temporarily, but a new one's gonna grow back and replace that immediately. Like we need to focus on systems and not like individual people. Doing a witch hunt for some fucking 17-year-old girl for wearing a piece of clothing that she didn't like read the entire history of like ancient China to be like qualified to wear is and to be clear, like I don't think she really did anything that like egregious, but like but like the thing is just like, well, why didn't she know that might be problematic? Like, why didn't she? Why? Like, I mean, like when I was a kid, I knew about racism, like, you know, to a certain extent, but like, I mean, that's like people aren't like fully equipped to know that what they're doing is wrong, and also. Another thing is, like, when you just approach this thing with this, like, preachy, scolding rhetoric, like, some people, there's generally two reactions with people. Some people just kind of, like, curl up in a ball and say, like, I'm sorry, I'll do better. But a lot of people, when they get attacked, they like, get defensive. And they're just like, well, fuck you. Like, fuck you. Whatever. And, like, this is a fucking clear pipeline to the alt-right, which I think, like, a lot of these like in their own little fucking cubbyhole sphere lefty, especially ones who talk about like, you know, sensitive issues like fucking race and stuff like that. Like they don't really know how easily that they're pushing people towards these kind of like problematic people, because like it's just like, oh, you said something that's like that's not like quite like, you know, like appropriate enough for you know my like how I think, like, well, you know, you need to sit down and listen and like all this shit, and like, you know, people get like, people like, a lot of people are fucking sensitive, man, and it's just like they're either gonna shut down or they're just like, I feel attacked, and it's just like, oh, I'm gonna go, oh, hey, actually what you said wasn't wrong, especially because like if you really look at the facts, it's like, have you known that 13% of the population ...
Yeah, that whole thing. So like, yeah. Let me bang out a few statements here. I don't know if any of these will be hot takes here, but I think like let's just go through this, right? So the first one: are a lot of white people in the US like really weird and sensitive about race stuff? Yes, absolutely, right?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like it's an uncomfortable topic.
For a lot of reasons, both because like liberals and like most people are like somewhere on the liberal spectrum, or are just weird about it. There's a lot of history about it in the U.S. A lot of people are weird about this issue,
right? And a lot of history that hasn't been like fully faced, even to this day.
Yeah, absolutely. Number two, do I think we need to center like 100% of rhetoric around like racism, around like the insecurities and like sensitivities of like white people who just like don't know a whole lot? No, I don't think we need to do that like in every case. But like the third thing is, we've seen like what this kind of like sassy, like, sit down and listen sweaty sort of rhetoric has done for like years on the internet, both on like Tumblr and like BuzzFeed and like MTV and all these like little like pop feminism sort of outlets. And I think we've seen like in the past decade, like this stuff does not resonate with a lot of people. This doesn't seem like an effective way of talking about this stuff. So I think we can hit like a golden medium between like being like not weird and accusatory about this stuff, while also like, I don't know, maybe breaking down the issues in like real terms that are actually relevant to real people, and not this like pop culture like sociology 101 jargon whatever bullshit that just does not have like staying power, you know?
Yeah. Both of those points I think are really valid, and just like on the second one, like it shouldn't, like all of the discourse should be focused around like not hurting the feelings of like the average like white person in America. Like fucking absolutely. But on the third one, it's also like being like really like inflammatory with that too. I think just it really doesn't change anyone's mind. It really just splinters people into one group that's either like really vigilant or walking on eggshells and incredibly scared all the time, or people who are just like, fuck this woke shit, I'm just gonna be an asshole. I'm just going to say whatever I want. So, like, I think there's a way to be normal about this shit. And I really don't think that, like, the online discourse has done anything productive towards this. Because, like, when you're sitting alone, and I'm just thinking about, like, you know, like, fucking Twitter power users and video essayists and shit like that. Like when you're sitting alone talking to a camera, inventing some straw man in your mind, and this is like, as much as I hate to sound like a fucking centrist right now, but like no matter what side you're on, you are gonna like imagine that that the audience is either the best of you or the worst of you. and either just deliver this like scathing like fuck you type of thing, or just like this like, ha, you know what I'm talking about, right, people? Whereas like I've seen like I've seen some like I've been a part of some like pretty spicy discourse with some people that I've known before, and it's just like, but I mean like when you're actually talking to like a real human being face to face, even when people get like chuddy or just annoying or whatever, you really tend to temper the shit like quite a bit. Well, I mean, I do, or the people around me do. I don't know about these like terminally online people, but they probably don't talk to like real human beings ever because they're too busy.
People do code switching. You know, you talk differently to your online Discord buddies than real people, and I think
for sure.
I don't know. Maybe more of the stuff we put on the internet needs to be in the real people tone rather than the online people voice. You know?
Yeah, and to be honest, I've kind of been working on this a little bit, is to like be a little bit more of like a little bit less of like an edgy flippant douchebag, and kind of just like because it's not fucking productive at the end of the day. Like it's fun and it's cathartic sometimes, and I'm still gonna while out sometimes, guys. Don't worry, you're not seeing
a lot of anger and bitterness on the internet is just like the young people equivalent of like old man yells at cloud. You know, it doesn't mean anything.
No, for sure. And I mean, people in the Discord talk to me about fucking being an old man yelling at a cloud. Y'all do the same shit. Shut the fuck up.
a lot of you are even worse about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like as I enter my 30s, I find myself like I'm being more conscious of like all the time I spend like scrolling my phone, and I've made it a habit of like sometimes when I go out, I just don't bring my phone, or like if I'm going upstairs to like make lunch or something, like I can leave my phone on my bed for a few minutes to like just, I don't know, make a fucking sandwich or whatever. I don't need to be plugged into the global conversation on X.com, the everything app, at all hours of the day.
I agree, and that's actually like if nothing else, an actionable point that you can take away from this episode. Really start trying to do that. Is just like not only like leave your phone place, like if you're in your own place, like obviously if you're leaving the house, you should bring your phone with you. You might need to call somebody or
I know
whatever,
I have a few friends. I have a few friends who don't, other than like a prepaid phone only for emergencies. I'm like, man, I wish I had your discipline.
Yeah. I mean that's a little extreme. It's kind of more like I think you should, instead of just like, oh, I use my phone too much, so I bound all my fingers together on my phone hand. So it's just like, no, dude, like just cultivate like a mindset of just like, oh, you're using your phone, cut that out. Like we really need to, as a fucking species, just develop like a modicum of willpower now more than anything, because there's just so many fucking goodies at our fingertips. Like
I know that sounds really difficult, but I want to assure you guys, and I'm coming at you as one of you. Okay, I have ADHD out the ass. I am not medicated right now. I have never been medicated, but even I, in my broken and dilapidated state, can sometimes find the discipline to make my life a little bit better by just avoiding a few small things throughout my day. If I can do it, you can do it as well. All right.
Yeah, and this is something for like that I've kind of noticed with like any bad habit, which is definitely like helped with anything you do. Like if you check your phone too much, don't even like because all the prescriptions for this are like, just buy this app that your phone turns off, but you put it in a box and it's locked. And fuck all that. Just sit down for fucking 10 seconds. I know it's fucking hard. I know you want to watch the next YouTube video on your to watch list. Sit down for 10 seconds. Just realize like, I want to stop looking at my fucking phone so much. And then when you do it, be conscious. Don't go on fucking autopilot. Just be conscious of like, I'm picking up my phone and I'm scrolling towards fucking Instagram or whatever. And just be conscious of that, and like, and let it happen a little bit. Just be aware of your thoughts. I mean, that's kind of like one of the tenets of like meditation. Is something like that. Is it like just be aware of like what you're doing, of your thoughts, like kind of be like meta of like your entire existence, like what you're doing right now. And the funny thing is, like, even if you allow yourself and you don't say like, hey, no drinking soda, no drinking beer, no phone, no gaming, go to sleep. Like, even if you just let go of all these rules that you're arbitrarily going to put on yourself, and you just sit down and like look at what you're doing, and don't let yourself just like go on autopilot, you'll kind of start to like temper your bad habits after a while. It's kind of an awareness thing.
You don't have to get it. You don't have to get it like completely perfectly down pat either.
Exactly.
Even if you say like, okay, I'm aware I'm doom scrolling right now. Even if that doesn't stop you from doom scrolling right away, just like keep doing it, and eventually it will. I just feel like
keep doing it and be aware that you're doom scrolling. Like, it's fine. It's the funny thing is when your awareness kicks in, you'll keep doom scrolling, and you'll just be like, why am I doom scrolling? Like, this is fucking stupid. And then you put your phone down and stop.
This is a little thing. Maybe I'm gonna get a little personal and vulnerable here, but I all throughout like my childhood and teenage years, I came to realize there was a behavior that I would often do called catastrophizing, which was like every time I was like worried about something or like stressed out, my mind will go like, if this bad thing happens, then this next bad thing is going to happen, and then that's going to make this other thing worse, and then it's going to go on to this other stuff.
A classic.
And yeah, a lot of people struggle with this. I was like, my life like changed overnight when I learned that there was a word for it. And again, the whole mindfulness and just being aware of what you're doing is like the key to like stop yourself from going into those like spiraling thoughts, whether it's like catastrophizing or just like becoming like a passive like doom scrolling person, just like consuming like tweet after tweet after tweet or whatever. Like when I realized like what there was a term for that behavior that I was doing, I started like every time I felt myself like going into that state, I would have to like consciously remind myself in my head like, you're catastrophizing right now. You are imagining things that have not happened yet. How you feel right now is not how you're going to feel in an hour or two or tomorrow or whatever.
And it instantly makes you feel better, right?
So when I first,
like a little bit better.
When I first started doing it, like the first couple times, not really, but I stuck to it, and eventually this is something you really have to train your brain to do. And eventually, even like it does take a little bit of time, but it is going to make a difference. So like just don't give up on it if you don't see 100% immediate results, but maybe you will.
Sure,
I don't know. I'm just talking about my experience. So
Yeah. That actually reminds me, like, well, 2 points. First of all, like training your brain. That's a really good thing to touch on, because like, yeah, your brain is a muscle, like just like anything else. You want to get stronger with your arms, you do some pull-ups or lift some weights or whatever. You have to do that shit with your brain.
If you want a big fucking noggin, you got to work out at the library.
Yeah, if you want to be like Yakub, you got to do what YouTube did.
And then you too can create your own race of very problematic people. No, I'm just kidding.
But I actually also had like when I was like 19 or 20, I had an actually very common but like very little known psychological issue called like depersonalization and derealization. Have you ever heard of these before?
I have heard about these, yes.
Yeah. So I got this like just very randomly, and I was losing my shit. And to anybody who doesn't know, it's kind of like you become disconnected from your like mind and body a little bit, and you like it's a really weird thing. And I have a history of like schizophrenia in my family, so like I was like, well, the fucking game over. I'm just like,
yeah, I think it's
like
called
the rest of them.
I think the category is called like dissociative conditions.
Yeah. It is just in like the weird thing that I discovered is like it's actually very common, but I think the reason it's not talked about that much is because it's like psychiatrists and psychologists don't really understand it that much, so there's not that much they can do other than just like, oh, here's some like anti-anxiety medicine, or like here's some SSRIs or whatever. But like I really was just like, I was fucking struggling for like a minute there, and I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, holy shit. And then I got so obsessed with it that I mean, luckily I have fucking ADHD as well, so I just started like researching this shit like nonstop, and then I found out about this, and then I found like all of this like research and shit like that, and like it was kind of like what you were saying, like when I could put a word on it and like a framework on it and just kind of like some people's experience with it and some prescriptions on it and some stuff like that. It was like, okay, like I'm not out of the woods yet, but at least this is like a thing, and I'm not just completely out here rudderless on my own. Like there's something I can work with here.
Yeah, you're not just like swinging your fists in pitch darkness anymore. You can actually see a target now,
which is really what that felt like. It was just like, yeah, it was like being on a fucking bad trip for anybody who's taking a hefty dose of fucking mushrooms. Am I right, folks?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Before I had terms for like my ADHD or catastrophizing or whatever, I thought like I spent the first like maybe 2/3 of my life just thinking like, oh, I'm just oversensitive and just a lazy piece of shit. You know, those are just like personality flaws or something. But no, there's more to it, right?
And I think we can tie that back into the initial conversation in the sense of like like the discourse on stuff like this is useful in the sense as we can kind of put like kind of put a name on some phenomenon. We can kind of put a framework around this. It is cool and it is helpful to talk about this stuff and how it might be problematic, how it might make you feel a certain type of way, but maybe it's not really that problematic, and we can talk about that shit. But yeah, but we can do that without just like getting overly emotional about it. And I'm not faulting anybody for doing that. Like I do that shit all the time. Like I have fucking tendencies where I just see something that just like makes my fucking blood start to boil, and it's like, and I've really been working on lately just like chill the fuck out. Some people are just fucking a little bit misguided.
Not everything needs a response. Sometimes you can just observe.
And that's in this ties back to another thing we talked about of just like fucking like online internet rage bait shit, where it's like, why does everything feel so divisive on the internet before? Why is it like this is all like all of these like really fucking big brain video essayist people are like, why is everybody so divided right now? It's like, dude, I guarantee you they're not any more divided than they were like 100 years ago. The difference is the internet and fucking social media and shit incentivizes the most like easy to bait, quick to anger motherfuckers to like dominate every discourse that you see online. And you need to log off, dude. You need to log off the internet. You need to chill out. Go outside, dude. Smell the dead leaves. I know it's fall. Just smell something. So go outside and smell something.
I feel like
my advice to you.
It should give people a little bit of pause when you hear something like, this is the most divided America has ever been in its history. When like, you guys fought a civil war at some point.
I was gonna say there was literally, yeah. And then people are like, this is the most divided the world's ever been right now. It's like, have you ever heard of a conflict called World War II? Unless you're Swiss. In which case, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a little bit different for you guys.
World War II, there were two of them. Oh,
Which
yeah.
one was epic and which one was based? We'll find out on our next video, but make sure to hit that, smash that subscribe and like button, and then we're going to find out who's cool.
A little bit. I think to tie things back, there's one other big point I wanted to make about cultural appropriation before we get into this. I'm not gonna go on a whole thing about like the ways in which my hobby of choice, tabletop RPGs, has been like problematic and racist in the past, but like it has been very racist in the past. Look up Oriental Adventures, a D&D module written in the 80s, if you ever want a good example of that. It's not great, but I remember there was a little talking point that really stuck out to me once, because I was watching a podcast of some people who were talking about that particular module and all the ways it's like not aged well and like wasn't good at the time either. And one of the big things about cultural appropriation that stuck with me was this putting it in the terms of like, when you make other people seem like an exotic thing, like an object, like something that's like mysterious, and you don't think of them as just like regular people, just like yourself, that you can interact with, I think like that's a big element of when things get out of hand, right? So like, if you're not familiar with that D&D module, I think another good example would be like if you've watched a lot of like kung fu or like martial arts movies from like the 80s and 90s, if you've played like any of the Mortal Kombat games, if you are aware of who Steven Seagal is at all, check out episode
Listen
12.
to our last Bono. It was great.
Yeah, if you know any of those things, all of those are very good examples of like white people taking like Asian culture and making it this like mysterious like alien thing that is like unknown and like vaguely threatening and not completely understood or whatever, when like they're just people like you and I. Like, I don't know, around where I live, there's a little Korean restaurant, and the lady who owns it is just this like sweet old like Korean like motherly woman, and like I see her every time I go out there, and she's just like the nicest person or whatever. And it's like, I don't know, I feel like when I think a big key to getting over any like weird like racial or cultural like hangups you might have is to just like think of things in terms of like actual real people that you can interact with, and not these like big fucking like abstract systems of like oppressors and oppressees and like privileged people and not privileged people or whatever, because those might be very real, but I think when we talk about things in those big like societal abstract terms, I think it's alienating to people, because like the average person does not see the world through this lens. They see it through the lens of like people that they actually know, and I think that's like a big key to this whole thing.
No, 100%, and yeah, I think the real key thing there is in first of all the idea of that is a very well researched and documented phenomenon called Orientalism, where like people see like the Far East with the magical people and with the mysterious things. It's like, no, they're just people with a culture. And that's that was like that was a big thing that
if you take any sociology class, you might actually read the book called Orientalism. It's by Edward Said, published 1978.
Yeah,
I read parts of that.
He's a pretty seminal motherfucker.
Did I say Said? It's Said. Okay, well, yeah. Okay, I remember reading parts of that book back when I was in college, and it's good to know. Brush up on a little bit of Orientalism, and you'll see it everywhere.
For sure, and like I mean, like that applies to anything. In my studies in anthropology, it's kind of like it's weird, because that field was kind of like, at first just like, look at these weird people and what they do, and then like after a while I was kind of just like, oh, we're all like humans. And that's kind of the dichotomy between ethnography and ethnology, but we're not going to get into that. But yeah, I think related to like what you were saying before, I think we should attack the systems that make people fucking insane, but also like just be charitable to the person behind them, because I truly think some people can't be saved. I think I'm black-pilled enough at this point in my existence.
Forgive the unfortunate terminology.
Yes. I was thinking the same thing after I said that, but I think most people can. And if you're just going to be uncharitable to anybody who doesn't completely capitulate to your views, even though they may be very well researched, they may be very logical, they may be very just like from a fucking human perspective, like, yeah, we shouldn't do terrible shit. I get it, trust me, but it's just like, some people need a little bit more time, man. They might have some trauma. They might be a little bit hurt. They might be a little bit angry. Give them some time, and then if they end up like Ian Miles Chong, then yeah, put them in a work camp. Like, I'm fine with that.
I agree with that entirely, and it applies like triple or like quadruple or some shit on social media where you cannot tell the tone in which somebody is talking when they type, okay?
Right.
So.
And especially now, half of these accounts are fucking bots. They're not even real. They're just state actors, which is the manifestation of systems. These aren't even people with opinions and they're pissed off. It's just like some state actor paid like a fucking bot farm to like make like bullshit posts on Twitter. So it's like a pure manifestation of a system acting as a person.
Yeah, exactly. I think we've covered most of the points, but I did kind of want to end today on a little bit of a positive note.
Yeah,
because I do think there are some genuinely fun examples of cultural appreciation out in the world out there today. And so at the start of the episode, I read the little Rawhide Kobayashi a copy pasta, which is just a little parody. It's not a real person, although I guess the photo of the Japanese guy like tipping his cowboy hat is very charming. But before recording this episode, I was looking around at some examples. Like I said, this was going to be a whole different thing originally. And I came across a little character on twitter.com who was very interesting to me. And I know I showed this to you the other night.
Yeah, I'm watching it right now. This guy fucking rules.
Yeah, so
this guy rules.
So this guy's Twitter handle is bad_Johnny, and he's known as Johnny, and his name is Daigo Yamashita, and he's this Japanese guy. He's part of like a 50s style rock and roll band. I believe it's called Johnny Pandora. And if you go on his Twitter handle, you'll see all these videos of him just like absolutely like busting it down and just like going crazy dancing to this like 1950s like rock and roll music. He's got a pompadour, he's got the leather jacket, he's got the jeans. I don't know, I just think this is an amazing example of like, man, this random guy from Japan just absolutely loves this American culture from a different time period.
And that's the thing that we can end on here is like, and that's the difference between cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation. This guy is not just like stealing some like very surface level aesthetic style. Like, this motherfucker clearly lives this shit. Mm-hmm. Like, he was not born into this era. He was not born into this country. He was not born into this culture, but he found it at some point in his life, and he fucking loved it so much that he did it to the fucking max. And I mean, shit, dude, like, This motherfucker would give Elvis a run for his goddamn money. As
for
he
real,
should,
absolutely.
Like, yeah, this dude fucking rules. I respect the shit out of what he's doing. He's so good. He's so good at what he does. And I will say, just from my personal experience, this is something that I've noticed about. I will praise like Japanese people as a whole for this one. Is like, there's a lot of like there's a lot of Japanese art and music and stuff like that, and which is not which is definitely like it takes from a classically non-Japanese style, but like they do it so well and so earnestly and so sincerely and so just fucking good at the end of the day, where it's just like, that's not cultural appropriation, man. That is just fucking respect for that culture. That is respect for your craft and respect for just doing the goddamn thing. And,
you ever think about like how crazy it is that you have something like the Dark Souls games, where it's like, this is like a dark European fantasy with like knights and dragons and shit, and everybody's speaking in like these and thous and whatever, and it's like, oh yeah, this is a Japanese game studio that made this, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how they do that.
Yeah. I don't know. It's cool as shit. I just wanted to share this because like I said, I looked up Johnny Pandora here. He's one of the coolest people I've seen on Twitter. Immediately follow this account, even though most of his posts are not in English. I don't care. I just want to see this on my feed more often.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Bad_Johnny on x.com. If you still have an account there, follow this dude.
If you are like me and you cannot let go of the sickness that is x.com, the everything app, there are at least a couple of accounts you can follow to put a few pieces of corn in the big turd. But yeah, I know. Yeah. I think that's all we got for today. So let's wrap her up.
No, that's it. Yeah, let's shout out the homies. Let's shout out the
Let's go. We got two people. Tiers of homies now.
Yeah, we got two tiers, and now this is no longer a classless communist shout out. We're prioritizing the Project $20.
No. It's still communist. Some of you are just party officials. Okay, you are the vanguard, and the other people are the vital workers.
Yeah, exactly. We're all equal. It's just we love. It's like you're our children. We love you all equally, but just some more than others, based on how happy you make us. Yeah. But all right. But first on the list here, we got Trash Bins and Shalom Guy, the early adopters to the $20 tier. Oh my God, I'm getting the vapors right now.
I'm so proud of you guys. Thanks so much.
Yeah, we love you. And then to the rest of you, which we love again just as much as them. We love you. I'm not even gonna
for real. No, all jokes aside, it means a lot to us.
No, we really do. We really do. So we got Weasel, Nick, Protagon, Clam, Walker, Dimbus, Braid, Nilly, Heresy, Trevor Stilson, and Woke Baby. We do appreciate the fuck out of all of you for continuing to support this podcast for so long. Like, pretty much everybody on this list has been like just there for like a fucking solid minute, which fucking rules. Like, you are really keeping us going as much as we don't fully tell you how much we appreciate you.
One day when this show blows up, we are not going to forget you guys. Mark my words.
Oh no, for sure. You're already OGs, and yeah. When there's a bunch of
Yeah, I got two quick little things. One, if you are on the fence about subscribing to Project $20 and you don't know what stickers we've got on offer, hop on over to the Discord. It's in the announcements.
true.
I'm going to post
True.
the preview of those every month just so you can like make sure you're getting your dollar's worth. And number 2, what was number 2? My mind is slipping here in the last minute of this episode.
Oh, Briar has Alzheimer's.
Oh no, it's not
Briar
good. Well,
has Alzheimer's.
Oh, right. The other thing, we kind of brought it up earlier. If you want a bit of an extended discussion on some of the things we talked about, especially like this cross-cultural exchange or whatever, check out bonus episode number 12. It will have gone up a couple days before this episode. We kind of touch on that near the end, which started off with this very funny Steven Seagal tangent. So check that out if you liked this whole genre of discussion here.
Yeah, honestly, I'm gonna keep it $1.55 with you guys. I when we originally started doing the Bono episodes, I thought it was kind of just being like me and Briar like kind of like shoot the shit for like 45 minutes, and it's just kind of like bullshit. Some of these episodes are like, honestly, I think like in I hesitate to say in some ways better than some of the main ones, but just in the sense that like they're so off the cuff and like effortless that there some really good discussion comes out of some of these, and some really funny shit too. So
I would compare our bonus episodes to that feeling you get when you just order like fries at like Five Guys or something, and then you find like an onion ring or two in them. I think that's what it's like listening to our show.
Yeah. No, it is just for anybody who's on the fence about that. If that's keeping you away from it, it's not just us like farting into the mic and like chuckling randomly while we like watch YouTube videos with like 45 seconds of silence in between anything we say. It's not like that. It's a fairly similar format to this. It's just a little bit more unhinged and less pointed, but which turns into some like some really good shit sometimes. So check it out.
There's this image I saw on Twitter a while ago which really stuck with me. It was kind of like a Sunday morning like newspaper comic sort of thing, and it was this guy like explaining something over the table, and the caption went something like, so it's a podcast where me and my friend review movies, but the thing is we also kind of joke around a little bit. And it's like, okay, our show is not like that. Okay, we're we're above, right? We're the cream of the crop of podcasts. All right, so
it's a tier down from some like Gimlet Media cultivated like everything is scripted podcast, and several tiers up from like me and my bro smoke a joint and like look at memes on TikTok and just go like, yo, that's cap, bro. That's
Gimlet Media what shows do they do again? Remind me.
Are
they the Behind the Bastards guys?
I think that's something else. Gimlet is the one that I always pick on, but I mean, there's a bunch of like fucking shitty podcast studios.
I'll just make my joke. I'll just make my joke anyway. Guys, if you like Behind the Bastards, I think we're much better than their show. And if Robert Evans takes issue with that, he can come on here to argue his point.
True,
with us.
And I would love to have him on the podcast. He's a fantastic person.
That'd be pretty fire.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all for this week. And I think we've dragged it out long enough. So, we'll see you next week. Check out the bonus. Check out the next one. Have a good night.
Hell yeah. Good fight. Good night.